Friday morning, finding support from Statistics Canada's updated production estimates confirming the tight supply situation. Canola up 6 to over $18, January up $18.30 at $1,040.90 per ton. StatsCan pegged this year's canola crop at 12.6 million tons. That was down slightly from the 12.8 million forecast back in September and well below the 19.5 million tons grown last year. This report was the first of the year conducted using farmer surveys, with previous estimates based off satellite imagery. Gains in outside markets, including crude oil and Chicago soy oil, contributed to today's gains in canola. But the Canadian dollar is also stronger, and that did temper the upside somewhat. In the U.S., soybeans and corn are both higher, while wheat is mixed. Soybeans up 24 cents in the January contract at $12.68 per bushel. End of the week positioning was a feature as prices continued to recover from their recent sell-off. Strength in crude oil was supportive. The USDA announced private export sales of 122,000 tons of soybeans to unknown destinations this morning. Canada's soybean crop was pegged at 6.3 million tons by StatsCan. That was up from an earlier estimate and in line with the year-ago level. Most of the country's soybeans are grown in Ontario, which did not suffer from the same drought conditions that hurt yields in Western Canada. Corn, it's also firmer. The March contract up 9 cents at $5.86 per bushel, with pre-weekend's positioning a feature. Canada's corn crop came in at 13.9 million tons. That was down slightly from a previous estimate, but above the year-ago level. Wheat, meanwhile, is mixed. Minneapolis spring wheat down a penny in the March contract at $10.41 per bushel, but Kansas City up a penny in March at $8.43 per bushel. Chicago wheat, it's up 6 cents in the March contract at $8.21 per bushel. Total Canadian wheat production was estimated at 21.6 million tons by StatsCan. That would be down 38% on the year. Of that total, Durham was pegged at only 2.6 million tons, a 60% drop on the year. Other spring wheat, though, at 16 million tons, was still well below the year-ago level, but up slightly from what was forecast back in September. That's a look at the ICE futures and U.S. markets for Friday, December 3rd. In Winnipeg, for Markets Farm, I'm Phil Franz-Workington.
Here comes the snow.
Do you remember in the summer when I asked you to pick up an air conditioner and you said it's only hot for 3 days and then we had to sleep in the basement all summer? So do you think it'll only snow for 3 days this winter?
What are you saying?
We need a snowblower. I suggest you buy it now before Butler Farm Equipment is sold out.
Butler Farm Equipment has blowers, blades, plows, and more. Everything to keep you out of the doghouse, or in this case, an igloo, on 107th Street behind the Wholesale Club.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Good morning and welcome to the program. Today we have one guest, and it's going to be an important one because it's been quite a few months over in the BC legislature and for the government. So we're going to be talking about cleanup for the debris, the windstorm debris up north. We're going to talk about the government's response to natural disasters. We're going to be talking about the BC Liberal Party's leadership contest, all with our Peace River North MLA, Dan Davies, who joins me now. Good morning, Dan. Welcome to Moose Talks.
Hey, good morning, Dub. Are we going to be able to cover all that in a half an hour?
I hope so. There's lots. I had to cut some stuff out, as you probably know even. I want to start with this windstorm debris plan. It's kind of the most recent thing that's come up. Of course, that windstorm was in June, caused quite a bit of damage. There's lots of felled trees kind of north of Fort St. John and around Presbyterian, the Red Creek area, Blueberry River, for example. And, farmers had silos blown over and whatnot, so it's quite a mess to clean up. That, and I'll admit, this surprised me a little bit. That hasn't really actually been cleaned up because wildfire services were busy in other parts of the province and couldn't actually pitch in to help out. So this is a mess that still needs to be dealt with. I have to ask, I mean, you asked kind of for a cleanup plan for this from the government. Were you at all surprised there wasn't a cleanup plan already in place, or it's just been so busy that...
No, and unfortunately, I wasn't surprised. We're, as you mentioned, after the windstorm, we still haven't really heard if it was a hurricane or a tornado. I mean, I think there'd be lots of arguments to say that there was indeed a tornado, even if you looked at the damage. And I went up to Red Creek, I went out to Presbyterian and other areas and looked at the damage. And as you mentioned, there was substantial damage. Silos flipped over, houses damaged by falling trees. One house that I saw at Presbyterian was blown right off of its foundation. But the big concern now that that's over is the state of the forest that surrounds many of these areas, and the amount of deadfall or soon to be deadfall of all the trees that are broken off laying on the forest floor really creates a significant hazard moving forward in regards to fire. And this is what, I've written a couple letters and have spoken to the minister now around getting some crews in there to clean up these areas. Like I say, all around Red Creek. I mean, you've got a fairly large community that is nestled in the trees there. So we need to start looking at how we're going to mitigate these issues. This has been an issue, though, for a while, even before the big storm happened. We've been arguing that we need to be looking at how we manage our forests, doing more prescribed burns, looking at those issues. Basically, it's fire smarting your communities. And we've seen the success this past summer with the forest fires of some of the communities that did already fire smart their communities, which is doing thinning out the forest, cleaning out the underbrush, cleaning out the forest floor, doing prescribed burns. All of those are critical pieces of prevention in regards to protecting communities.
I have to ask, I mean, you've already kind of touched on it. Is it a prescribed burn that you think might be happening, or is it just kind of cleanup of the deadfall? Is it both?
Well, it's both. I mean, I'm far from an expert
Sure.
in prescribed burns. We have experts up here in this area, but I'm talking generally speaking, our forests need a mixture of all of those. You wouldn't probably do a prescribed burn up at Red Creek just due to proximity of the homes, but we do need a crew in there to go up and clean out those trees that are in there.
I assume, I mean, this letter, your letter at least, was only sent a little while ago, I believe, but I think the PRRD was on this, months ago, and they kind of got the first response, which was, I mean, no, there's nobody available. We can't really help right now. So
Yeah.
I assume you haven't heard anything back on this and whether this is even on the table of the minister, eh?
No, and right after the event, I was talking to the Minister of Public Safety, Mike Farnworth, and we were talking about some of the issues. This was right after the storm, getting disaster relief and trying to move those forward. And it was mentioned back then that the next issue is going to be this powder keg that's going to be sitting around over the next couple of years, and that we need to get it cleaned up. We also need to be looking at, if you drive up the highway, you see all these massive trees right against the power lines. We need to be looking at those as well, because it's just the next windstorm that's going to be coming and knocking those power lines out. So we just need to look at a big picture. How do we improve and make things better for the next storm that will come?
All right, local MLA Dan Davies live here on Moose Talks. You, like many, have been critical of the government's response to the natural disasters that have plagued the province this year. Windstorm, a small version of that. Of course, the flooding, wildfires, it's kind of been nonstop this year. And as well as their response to, actually fixing things or making them better, and their seeming lack of ability to communicate to British Columbians before the disaster and after. This one's tough because I don't understand what we're missing here. I mean, is there some indication as to why the NDP have been so reluctant, including using the Alert Ready system that they keep testing? why aren't they just using it? It's so mystifying.
It's unbelievable, and you're right. It is mystifying. They don't have a reason. We've asked them. In fact, our last week in the legislature, we very much focused around this. And whether we talk the forest fires, where there was lots of opportunity to get lots of warning out to people to get them to safety. Look at the heat dome this summer. 600 British Columbians died in the heat dome. Many of those in Vancouver. Another opportunity to let people know ahead of time, and nothing was done. And now we see the flooding. And we only have to look to other examples. Washington State was experiencing very similar issues, especially in the northern parts around Abbotsford, that Sumas area. They had 48 hours advance warning to come and get sandbags. There will be flooding. Don't travel. Shutting roads down. 48 hours before BC finally, sent out some tweets or sent out a Facebook notice. I mean, we have this alert system, which, twice a year our cell phone goes off. We've only tested it. In fact, I shouldn't say they finally did use it here just recently out at Vanderhoof last week on an active shooter. That was the first time it's been used. Ontario's used it 200 times. Saskatchewan's used it, I don't know, 40, 50 times. Alberta next door has used it 80 times since it's come into effect in 2018. We have used it no time. These are great opportunities that, that you could warn people. Do not travel. Do not travel. Roads are flooded. And you can, the Ready Alert system is actually quite an amazing system where you can target areas where it's not a blanket province-wide. You can target it just to the Abbotsford area to make the cell phones go off, or wherever. We have no idea why the government has not, and now they're saying that they will get this in place for next September, or for next summer. Well, what about the disasters between now and then? We know the system works. My cell phone goes off twice a year for a test. We know it works. Why don't we start using it? That is a great question, and unfortunately, the government didn't have any answers.
I have to ask, we are in a majority government situation, which we're going to touch on again in a minute, where they can essentially do what they want as long as everyone votes the way they're supposed to. Yeah. What's kind of the opposition's plan to hold the government to account on this? I know, obviously, you ask questions every day. Is there more you can do to kind of say to the government, you made a huge mistake by not using this here, and you kind of need to be held to account for that. What's the opposition's plan to do that?
So as you are aware, Dub, and I'm sure many listeners are, we are not in government. We're the opposition. I call us a small but mighty opposition of 28 MLAs. But of course, the NDP have 50, I think it's 54 seats. I can't remember exactly now. They have a very strong majority. And we saw, in this last session, we saw that arrogance of them flexing their majority and not listening to to the will of the people. We saw that with the autism funding cuts, the clawback that just happened. Thousands and thousands of parents and families from across the province. Many of them came to Victoria during these, during the rainstorms, to stand on the front lawn and rally against the government, saying this is bad for our children and bad for our families. But they didn't even speak to it when called out on it, and they voted all in favor of it to make these changes. So, their arrogance around this majority is unfortunate. But your question, though, Dub, around what are we doing? Folks like yourself in the media does play a critical role in how the opposition does its work. One of our jobs is to make sure that we are bringing up the issues that happen in the legislature, and make sure that we are pushing those out to residents. And that is, the biggest thing we use is traditional media as well as our own social media channels. We did have a win just recently. Government was going to make some massive changes to the Independent Distributed Learning Program, the IDL. Just recently, again, it would have had massive implications on many children that are up here, even in the Peace region, that do IDL. And we did get the government to back down on those decisions, and that was due to us applying pressure during question period. and also utilizing the media and getting parents engaged and writing the government MLAs, writing the government ministers, and saying this is not a good thing. So that is one of the biggest, I guess, tools that we have, is to be pushing this information out via media, raising it in question period, raising it in different debates and statements in the legislature, and hoping that the government does feel that public pressure. Because, the NDP is the government right now, the government of British Columbia, and they need to be listening to all areas and governing for all British Columbians, not just the Lower Mainland.
Okay. Before we go to commercial break, I want to make sure we talk about this too, which is everything to do with the government's arrogance. Freedom of information requests changes. This was a bill that got pushed through kind of on the last day. They called closure on it. They stopped debate on it just so they can vote it through. Essentially, it adds kind of a $10 application fee for anybody who requests information from the government on most kind of things. There's some quibble and differences depending on what it happens to be, but it certainly caused a stir among journalists and the media. But I want to talk a bit about why it matters and what it says about the state of democracy, at least how the NDP seems to be viewing it in government, for them to have made that change in the first place.
Yeah. So, and you're bang on with the arrogance, and this again shows the that flexing the majority. The FOI bill, the Freedom of Information bill, that was introduced. You're right; it was introduced later in the session. Along with, there was a 60-page forestry bill that was dropped on us in the last week of the legislature, which they also brought closure to. And closure means, we're done listening to you guys in opposition. We're just going to vote on it now. We don't care what you have to say. And they literally bring closure to the debate and flex their muscle, and they all stand up in favor, and it's done. And we do not have the ability to reverse that. So the FOI bill is a significant bill. Yes, you're right. There is a fee which is strictly set up to cabinet, so they can set the fee to whatever they want, and they have just set it at $10. But it could be $25 by the end of the year, or $50, whatever it is, for any time someone wants to do a request. And I'll tell you, this is where media and this is where the opposition get their information from. In fact, a lot of the stuff in the autism funding, we just found out the government's intentions to turn all daycare pretty much to close all private daycare facilities in the province and turn them over into a government-run or government-supported daycare. So get rid of basically the market-based model. We found that out from FOI. So the FOI bill is, as you mentioned, has a fee. It also now doesn't allow it puts a veil over top of the Premier's office. So FOIs can't be done in the Premier's office, which is just ludicrous. Like, what are you hiding? The other big issue is all your personal data, which up until now has been having to store it in Canada, preferably in British Columbia somewhere on a server. It can now be stored anywhere to the lowest bidder. So when we're talking looking after your data as a citizen of British Columbia, doesn't matter what that might be, maybe it's medical, maybe otherwise, it can be stored to the lowest bidder. Maybe that's a server in China, or a server down in the States, or a server in South America, wherever. Our data can now be stored somewhere else, that we as Canadians or British Columbians no longer have control over that data. And those are big flags for us. And we stood up and we debated this bill for over a week. Do you know how many of the NDP stood up to talk to it? None. It was only us that debated this bill. We're the ones that broke it down section by section. And when we got toward the end, the NDP just said, you know what, we're done listening to you guys. We're calling closure on it. So the arrogance, like I say, it was very, very prevalent during this last session.
All right, Dan. Well, we've got some more questions for you. We're going to talk about electoral boundaries commissions and find out if there's any update on that. And, of course, the BC Liberal Party leadership race that's happening right now, and you'll be electing somebody in early February. All that and more coming up on Moose Talks with Dan Davies right after this.
The number one website in Northeast BC is energeticcity.ca. Our digital advertising experts drive over 15,000 people a day to energeticcity.ca, and we love to help your business. Let us show you how to grow your business and manage your digital advertising with programmatic display ads, social media management, search advertising, or getting your business noticed on energeticcity.ca with display advertising, branded content, or other customized options.
Get the skills you need to land the job you want with the help of Northeast Native Advancing Society. They've partnered with ATCO and ACL Construction to offer the Access Essential Skills Pre-Employment Program. The Essential Skills Program runs January 10 to March 4 in Fort St. John, followed by 8 weeks of on-site paid work experience in housekeeping, maintenance, and laborer positions. If interested, call NINAS at 250-785-0887.
You know what makes everyone happy during the holiday season? Food. I mean, it's a gift you can't go wrong with, right? So stop into M&M Food Market and pick up some gift cards to stuff in those holiday stockings. M&M Food Market also does beautiful gift baskets. Be sure to shop early for the best selection. Wrap up something delicious this holiday season with help from M&M Food Market at the north end of the Totem Mall. Visit mmfoodmarket.com.
Public notice. After 25 years serving Fort St. John and beyond, Roland Tree Bull Jewelers is closing. They have made all new reductions. All jewelry will be sold at 63 cents on the dollar. You heard right. Roland Tree Bull Jewelers have reduced everything to sell at 63 cents on the dollar. They have a huge selection of diamond, gold, silver, and gemstone jewelry and more. Hurry in today. COVID protocols are in place. Check Facebook for details and updates. Roland Tree Bull Jewelers, 9803 93rd Avenue, next to Safeway Liquor.
There's always something going on in the energetic city, and the staff from the City of Fort St. John Recreation Department have planned a variety of exciting programs and events. Here's what's coming up.
Get in the Christmas spirit and show off your creative skills with the Gingerbread House Contest. There will be 4 categories, and participants can only enter 1. Drop off your Gingerbread House Friday, December 3rd.
For more information on this event, view the Recreation and Leisure Guide at fortstjohn.ca or follow the City of Fort St. John Recreation on Facebook.
Cooking with local ingredients? Crowd-pleasing dishes? Appetizers and refreshing drink ideas? The Entertainer blog on energeticcity.ca is presented by Grill Pros and Outdoor Living and is full of awesome articles for those who love to entertain. Whether you're hosting family, friends, or planning a romantic dinner for 2, you'll find delicious seasonal recipes, great ideas for decorating, and everything else you need to be the perfect host. The Entertainer blog presented by Grill Pros and Outdoor Living, only on energeticcity.ca.
Got folks coming over and my vacuum won't suck, so I throw it in my truck and I'm off to the vacuum store. It's on 99th Ave, fix it up right, open 10 in the morning till 5 at night. They got all the supplies you need, you know. The vacuum won't suck, man it doesn't work, gets on my nerves.
Energetic Vacuums on 99th Avenue across from Friendly Pets and on Facebook.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca.
Welcome back. I'm Dub Craig. We're talking to Dan Davies, the Peace River North MLA today. Dan, I wanted to talk about the Electoral Boundaries Commission. This was something established in October. We all knew it was coming, and it's going to have a huge effect on kind of the size and boundaries of the ridings throughout British Columbia. And you certainly, and many northern MLAs around BC, were very concerned about what sort of decisions could be made in this Electoral Boundaries Commission. Just briefly, for people who don't know, can you tell us a bit about what they're going to be doing and kind of what the concern is?
Yeah. Well, again, this goes back to the arrogance we were talking about with the current NDP government. For a number of years now, there's been it's basically called the rural protection, which has been part of the electoral boundaries. So basically what that does is it makes the Electoral Boundaries Commission recognize that not all ridings are the same. Mm-hmm. Like my riding here is the size of 4 small European countries. It's 175,000 square kilometers, very different areas, different territories, different people, lots of travel. My colleagues in Vancouver, they have 5 blocks that they represent. 5 blocks. They can walk across their entire riding in about 8 minutes. So it's not to downplay what they do, but it's also to recognize that these boundaries are set like this for a reason. What's happened just recently in the last during this past session is the NDP brought in the Electoral Boundaries Commission, which does happen every 8 years, but they have removed the rural protection and based it basically on a population model. By going to a population model, that really changes things. Meaning basically Peace River North and Peace River South, the 2 ridings up here would probably become one. The Caribou would become one. Prince George and out to the west, those would become one riding. The Kootenay ridings, they would probably merge into one riding. What it would look like is about 6 or 7 ridings in the interior would be lost, and those numbers would actually, those lost riding MLAs would actually be added into the Lower Mainland in Victoria, where the population is dramatically growing, but upwards in apartment buildings. The legislation also allows for an additional 6 seats. So the legislature, which we currently have 87, would be at 93, I guess it is, after the next election. So that leaves us with only a handful of MLAs now in the interior, predominantly our party, which represents the right of center folks. Without a doubt, this is a political strategy. This puts a lot more seats into the Lower Mainland. Talk about this, the rural-urban divide, which I've always hated to say, but this really, really is going to challenge us, the voice up here, who represents, the rural MLAs, represent all the resources, the farming. They represent, mining, forestry, you name it. We represent everything on the land. And there's only going to be a handful of us in the legislature bringing the concerns of the resource sector, bringing all the concerns of our hunters, the backcountry issues, whether we're talking caribou. Those are already hard pieces to bring into the legislature to get them talked about now. Now we're talking about losing, more MLAs out of the interior. And without a doubt, this is a political ploy to again, put more MLAs into the city where they predominantly vote NDP, let's be honest. And this is what, this is what's unfortunate. It's only going to be hurting the residents who live in the interior of British Columbia. And that's what really worries us. So the commission's been struck. We're hoping that they're going to be boots on the ground, hitting different communities, not by Zoom. But they will be doing, part of their mandate is to tour the province, listen to British Columbians. They do have the ability to make calls outside of just the numbers. But again, it is up to the commission now that can make that. So we need to be making sure that residents of British Columbia are attending these town halls whenever they come up, making sure they're writing the commission to talk about this is not a good idea.
All right. We've only got a quick minute left, I hate to say, Dan, but I want to quickly talk about the BC leadership race. You guys vote early February, like days before the next session opens up, so the new leader is going to be, well, I'm leader now.
And running.
That's right. You came out and endorsed Ellis Ross to be the leader. He's visited Fort St. John and talked to some people and whatnot. Can you tell us why you think Ellis would be the best choice for leader and why you support him?
Yeah, well, I've got along with Ellis for a number of years, and he's like-minded in many ways. He's a Northern MLA. He's very pro-resource. Let's be honest. We probably would not have LNG Canada right now in British Columbia without Ellis Ross. He played a key role in getting that across the finish line. And if you translate that, that is why a lot of people are working here in Fort St. John right now, is to support LNG Canada and making sure that gas is there. Ellis Ross, like I say, he understands that balance of a strong resource sector, which balances off with good health care, good education, and those social supports that all of us really do want. And we can't have one without the other. Unfortunately, we are seeing industry being chased out of the province right now under the NDP government. And once those dollars dry up, you're going to start seeing massive impacts to all the other important things that we need. So Ellis gets that, and he really wants to move us, to a strong province. He recognizes that the environment is important and understands that LNG is going to play a crucial role in that transition as getting China off of coal, getting India off of coal, and onto cleaner, much cleaner British Columbia natural gas, where there's no other jurisdiction, Dub, in the world that does resource extraction like we do here in British Columbia. He embraces that, and he's pushing that. And his background as a former Indigenous leader, the chief of the Haisla First Nation, he understands the reconciliation piece. He understands the importance of partnering and partnerships. But like you say, he is there for the working person. He's there for all British Columbians. And he understands, I think, where British Columbia needs to go, not today, but beyond COVID. And that is a big plan of his, is how do we get through COVID right now and build a strong economy and get people working? And that's why I supported Ellis Ross. And December 17th, and it is open. You have to be a member to vote. So you do have to buy membership in the BC Liberal Party by December 17th. It's $10 or works up to a couple bucks a year. And you get a direct say in what leader that you want to select. And you can be as young as 14 years old. So great opportunity to get young people engaged in the political world. 14 is all you need to be. And I think it's only $5 if you're under 18. So great opportunity. We hope to, have folks come out. And, a lot of people have asked, are you going to change the party name? And that is certainly one of Ellis Ross's goals, is to change the party name to more come in line with, who we are as a party in reality.
All right, Dan. Well, we appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today. Thanks for being here, and happy holidays to you.
Yeah, you as well, and thanks very much. We could have gone for at least another half hour. I only got through half of my notes, so all the best, and like you say, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody out there listening.
Thank you very much, Dan. That's Dan Davies, the Peace River North MLA, talking to us on Moose Talks. Well, we'll be right back to wrap things up right after this.
At Northern Auto Electric, they're known for having the highest quality auto parts and service. They're also known as proud supporters of the oil and gas industry.
To learn more about everything they can do for you, visit them at 109th Street and 90th Avenue beside the Co-op Card Lock.
The gifts, the food, the parties. Who wouldn't want a little help? FSJ Return It and Moose FM is going to help by giving you a $1,000 shopping spree at local businesses here in Fort St. John. Yes, that's right. You could get a bunch of your holiday shopping on us. Plus, not only will you get $1,000, a local charity picked by you, the winner, will also receive $1,000 this Christmas. All you have to do is listen to Moose FM from now until December 21st for the cue to call. When you hear it, you'll get a chance to open one of our presents. Pick the right one, and you're in the grand prize draw. Plus, if you visit moosefm.ca/contests, you can also enter to win. But if you play the game on the radio, you'll get double the entries. It's the FSJ Return It Christmas Shopping Spree, brought to you by FSJ Return It and Moose FM.
Whatever activity you have planned this winter, Baffin has a boot for that. And Backcountry has a great selection. Whether you're snowshoeing, ice fishing, hiking, hunting, into power sports, or just building snowmen in the backyard at home, Baffin has a huge selection of winter boots, all made with specific winter activities in mind. All Baffin winter boots are made to keep you warm, dry, and to help you embrace the elements, like the Great Lakes collection, designed with our Canadian roots in mind. Or check out Baffin's new Ice Bite winter boots with grip technology, designed for transitioning temperatures and flash freezes. Baffin boots can handle even our coldest temperatures, so you can focus on having fun and enjoying winter. Whether it's boots for yourself or the kids, let the crew at Backcountry help you find the perfect Baffin winter boots. Baffin, born in the North in 1979. Pick up yours today at Backcountry, where we help you enjoy the great outdoors. Visit backcountryfsj.com.
Get the skills you need to land the job you want with the help of Northeast Native Advancing Society. They've partnered with ATCO and ACL Construction to offer the Access Essential Skills Pre-Employment Program. The Essential Skills Program runs January 10 to March 4 in Fort St. John, followed by 8 weeks of on-site paid work experience in housekeeping, maintenance, and laborer positions. If interested, call NINAS at 250-785-0887.
Our community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
Our thanks to MLA Dan Davies for joining us today for that chat. If you missed this episode and or you'd like to see it or hear it again, you can first of all watch it again on the Moose FM and energeticcity.ca Facebook pages very shortly. You can also download the podcast version of it. Again, it'll be available very shortly over at energeticcity.ca/podcast. While you're there, you can check out our Voices of the Peace and Before the Peace podcast. They're both excellent listens and well worth your time. It's all available again, energeticcity.ca/podcast. Well, that does it for this episode. Trey Lopashinsky is the producer of Moose Talks. I'm Dub Craig. Be well.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.
Moose